They say moments of truth come quietly. But this one arrived with backyard grills sizzling and Barbara's smug voice echoing through a crowd of fake smiles. "I want an audience," she laughed, handing me the thick envelope of final HOA violation notices like it was a party favor. But I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I smiled, reached beneath the table, and pulled out the silk-wrapped box I prepared for this exact moment. I walked straight to Evelyn, her mother, the woman who always believed Barbara could do no wrong. "Open it," I said softly, and when she did, her face drained of color. She stood silent for a long heartbeat, then simply walked out. Barbara never followed. If that moment gave you chills, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell. This is just the beginning, and what comes next will leave you speechless. Don't miss it. People say neighborly love is blind, but sometimes it just pretends not to see. When I first moved to Pinecrest Estates 5 years ago, we were both fresh faces in this picture-perfect suburb outside Charlotte. Barbara Kensington was the newly elected HOA president, tall, polished, full of confident smiles and pearls that clicked like tiny gavels. I was Emily Harper, quiet graphic designer, freshly divorced, and looking for peace after the city chewed me up. She made me feel welcome in ways no one else did. She made me feel seen. And for a long time, that was enough. We started dating the neighborhood sophomore year, met at the welcome potluck. She studied property values and covenants. I studied design and community branding. We talked dreams over iced tea on her perfectly manicured lawn. Hers was to build the most prestigious subdivision in the state. Mine was to have a home filled with actual peace, not rules. She called me her creative balance, and I believed it. After the moving trucks left, we had nothing but my beat-up SUV, a laptop, and big plans. While others played it safe with beige everything, we gambled. We built the community brand together right from my kitchen table, Pinecrest Estates Elevated Living. I handled the welcome banners, the website redesign, the social media that made our little corner of hell look like heaven. She pitched the rules and worked the board. We stayed up till 3 a.m., building presentations, holding clipboards through complaint after complaint. Then finally, things clicked. Residents started bragging. Our name started to matter. Property values rose. Money flowed into the HOA treasury. We moved from newbie to power duo. And somewhere in all that success, I lost something. And so did she. Success didn't change me. I still brought her coffee during board meetings, still left helpful design notes in her mailbox, still showed up at every inspection with a smile. But changed her slowly. At first, she started enforcing later, after dark courtesy visits. They became clipboard ambushes. Then it was, "Don't worry, dear, I'll handle it. Just sign here." I asked gentle questions. She gave me charming smiles and smoother answers. "Trust the process, Emily," she'd say, patting my shoulder like I was a confused child. I still baked her favorite lemon bars for meetings. Still ironed the HOA newsletter. Still stood beside her at every ribbon cutting with pride. But her eyes started drifting to her rule book more than to actual neighbors. I told myself she was just stressed, focused on protecting values. I wanted to believe our little alliance was going through a busy season. But the truth was, I didn't want to believe anything worse. Then came the night I found a receipt. It was in her golf cart, left in my driveway after one of her inspections. I wasn't snooping. I was returning her forgotten clipboard like always. The receipt was from a high-end landscaping company downtown, one I'd never heard of. The illegal backyard extension cost more than my annual HOA dues, and the detail that haunted me: privacy fence height, 6.5 feet, non-approved color. Mine was flagged at 5.9 feet last month. I sat on my porch just staring at that number. 6.5. Half a foot too tall for the rest of us. At that moment, something inside me cracked, but it didn't shatter. Not yet. I was too trained to hold everything together. That night, I baked lemon bars like nothing happened. She came by smelling like fresh mulch and entitlement. I smiled. I served her favorite, still warm. She kissed my cheek, air kiss of course, and asked how my garden was. I lied. She lied. And we both ate in silence, chewing on words neither of us said. On my porch swing, she turned away first. I stared at the dark street. It hit me. Our whole neighborhood had become a performance. We were two actresses in a play called The Perfect Community, reciting lines we no longer believed. But I wasn't ready to quit the show. Not yet. Instead, I started observing her like a scientist studies a subject. I watched her clipboard, her walkie-talkie, her golf cart habits. I noticed things I once ignored. How she smiled at texts but never showed who sent them. How she suddenly became protective of her private board files. How she stopped treating me like a partner and started treating me like a problem resident. I didn't confront her. I didn't scream or cry. I made a decision that night. If she was going to break the community, I wasn't going to let her do it quietly. She wanted secrets. I'd keep some of my own. She wanted control. I'd give her the rope and wait. Because the thing about illusions is they always break when the light changes. And I was done standing in the dark. After I found that receipt, my instincts wouldn't let me rest. I didn't sleep much. I stopped asking Barbara questions, not because I didn't care, but because I already knew the answers. What I needed now wasn't an explanation. I needed evidence. Cold, hard proof that couldn't be explained away with another, "It's for property values, dear." So I started watching. Not like a bitter neighbor. More like a detective who'd been played for a fool and wanted her justice. I went through the public HOA minutes. Every other Thursday, same pattern. Always the same emergency meetings at her house. Blue Oak Country Club catering, expensive, private, dim lighting. I checked the treasurer reports. She always paid in cash on those nights. Clean. Careful. Too careful. Then came the photos. One of our newer residents, a sweet young guy named Tyler, sent me a picture from the last pool inspection I'd missed because of flu. "You were missed last night," he wrote, attaching a group shot. I smiled at first until I noticed something. In the background, Barbara was laughing, head tilted back, hand on someone's waist. He wasn't a board member. He was young, maybe mid-20s, chest hair, tight polo, eyes locked on her like she was the only queen in the subdivision. I zoomed in. Her HOA president pin was still on. His name, I later found out, was Ryan Caldwell. He worked as the HOA's new compliance contractor, just a few months in, fresh out of some licensing course. I remembered seeing him once or twice, always quiet but ambitious. I never paid him much attention. I should have. The more I dug, the clearer it became. At board events, he was always close to her. At inspections, he took notes only for Barbara. On the private HOA app, he never posted pictures of them, but he always tagged vendors Barbara liked, quoted rules she enforced, and once shared a blurry photo of a woman's hand holding his in the shadows. The pearl bracelet was hidden, but I knew those hands. I'd shaken them for years. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't confront her. Instead, I smiled. I put on my prettiest sundress, played the role of the helpful resident, and let her think I was blind. It was safer that way for now. The real pain came from somewhere else. Barbara's mother, Evelyn, came over for tea one afternoon. She sat in my kitchen, sipping chamomile from a porcelain cup that probably cost more than my mortgage payment, and said, "You're lucky, Emily. Barbara works so hard for this community. So many residents would love a president like her." I nodded. She placed her hand over mine and whispered, "I know it's hard living under such strong leadership, but support her, dear. Don't be too needy." I wanted to scream. Instead, I offered her a slice of banana bread and changed the subject. I sat through brunches with Evelyn, praising Barbara's achievements, comparing her to her late husband, talking about how she was born to lead. Meanwhile, I was shrinking, disappearing, vanishing behind the woman I helped elevate. But inside, something began to burn. It wasn't just anger. It was purpose. I called Marcus. He'd been my friend since college, a quiet accountant, sharp-minded and loyal to a fault. I didn't have to say much, just one sentence. "I need an exit plan." He said, "Tell me everything." So I did. We started preparing quietly. He opened a private account in my name, helped me lock down copies of HOA finances, track Barbara's activity, advised me on what evidence to collect, emails, receipts, even location pings from the community app. I took photos of her golf cart. I mirrored her board tablet when she left it on my porch too long. I screen recorded anything suspicious. Ryan wasn't just a fling. He was part of something bigger. I found emails he sent from his contractor account suggesting Barbara restructure the board in a way that would push out problem residents like me legally. He was helping her plot a quiet takeover of the neighborhood. Cute. I saved everything. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to slash tires or storm the next meeting. I was going to outplay her. She thought I was still her loyal sidekick. And maybe a small part of me still hoped she'd look at me the way she used to. But the larger part, the wiser part, was awake now. She was done dreaming. Let her think she's winning. Let her smile at him behind closed blinds. Because while they danced, I was building a fire she couldn't see. And when the time came, I would make sure she felt every bit of its heat. To the world, I was still Emily Harper, the polished resident, the calm designer behind the great Barbara Kensington. I smiled at brunches, laughed at board meetings, and posted perfectly filtered photos of our perfect community, sipping lemonade on the common green. I looked like the kind of neighbor any HOA would be lucky to have. The truth? I was watching, recording, preparing. Every night while Barbara slept, I became someone else. Quiet, focused, sharp. I backed up emails, downloaded bank statements, and took screenshots of every suspicious message that passed through the HOA portal. I wore gloves when touching her files. No fingerprints. I stored everything on a flash drive, hidden inside a hollowed-out copy of How to Build a Perfect Community in my bookshelf. The irony almost made me laugh. Marcus stayed close, never pushing, always precise. Don't act yet, he warned me over a secure call. She's not just breaking rules, Emily. She's trying to erase you financially, legally, and socially. If you move too soon, she'll spin the story and make you the villain. I didn't argue. I knew Marcus was right. Barbara wasn't sloppy. She was methodical. And if I wanted justice, I had to outthink her, not outshout her. So I played my part well. I wore the sundress she liked. I baked the lemon bars. I smiled in front of the board, and behind closed doors, I studied the woman I once called my friend like a case file. One night, everything changed. It was late. The street was quiet except for the distant hum of sprinklers. I had just finished emailing Marcus a new document, an internal transfer Barbara made without board approval. I heard golf cart wheels on my driveway. I thought she had gone home, but curiosity pulled me toward the window. That's when I heard her voice. I moved slowly, staying just out of sight. The porch light was dimmed, and her back was to me. She held her phone loosely, voice low and smooth. She suspects something, she said. A pause, a soft laugh. But it doesn't matter. We're going to throw the party anyway. The 10th anniversary gala. Sounds romantic for the community, right? A male voice crackled on speaker. Ryan. What if she flips out in front of everyone? That'll ruin the moment. Barbara chuckled. That's the point. If she snaps, she looks unstable. If she stays calm, I serve her the final notices and walk away looking like the composed president. Either way, I win. Public sympathy is power, Ryan. I want an audience. Those words hit me like cold water down my spine. I want an audience. She wasn't just enforcing rules. She wasn't just lying. She wanted to humiliate me, destroy my reputation, make me look crazy and broken while she walked away as the calm, betrayed leader. I pressed my back against the wall, my hands trembling, but not from fear, from fire, rage, betrayal, but also something sharper, clarity. She picked the game. Now I'd rewrite the rules. The next morning, I made pancakes, her favorite. I hummed while I cooked. I asked about the gala plans with wide, excited eyes. She told me she had booked the exact venue where the community was founded. I gasped like I was touched. Barbara, that's so thoughtful. She smiled. You deserve it. No. What I deserve was honesty. What I was owed was respect. But if she couldn't give me that, I'd take something better. Control. I doubled down on the act. I pretended to be flattered by the guest list, offered to help with catering, and even picked out the community color scheme. Behind the scenes, Marcus and I tightened every bolt. I printed copies of Barbara's secret transfers. I gathered photos of her and Ryan in compromising places, none too graphic, but enough to ruin her innocent narrative. I saved voice notes. I prepped Evelyn's gift, the silk-wrap box she'd opened that night. Every detail mattered. She wanted an audience. I'd give her the kind that never forgets. Let her set the stage. Let her smile into the crowd. Let her believe she's the hero of this story. Because when the curtain rises, I'd be ready. And this time, she wouldn't know the script. There's a kind of silence that comes just before a storm. Not the kind that feels peaceful, but the kind where the air tightens, where every sprinkler click feels louder, sharper. That's what it felt like as I prepared for the gala. Our 10th anniversary celebration, the one Barbara was planning as my public downfall, was only days away. And I smiled through every second of it. "Do you want white lights or fairy lights at the entrance?" the planner asked. "Fairy lights," I replied, my voice light. "Barbara always says they make everything look pure." Barbara smirked from across the room. She knows my style. Oh, I did. She thought I was playing the role of the clueless resident. In her eyes, I was still soft, still slow to catch on. She didn't know I had already gathered enough proof to burn down the perfect image she had built. I helped her choose the guest list. I approved the playlist, nodded at the catering menu, and even flirted with the idea of a group photo. Everyone thought we were community goals, the kind of president-resident duo that beat the odds. Only Marcus knew the truth. We met at a small coffee shop 2 days before the party. He handed me a secure folder and whispered, "It's all here, signed, sealed, backed up in 4 places." I opened the folder briefly. Copies of Barbara's hidden bank transfers, screenshots of messages with Ryan planning to restructure the board, and even evidence that she funneled some of Evelyn's family trust funds into a private account without her knowing. It was all legal dynamite. One spark would blow her world apart. "I've also locked your property under a protection clause," Marcus added. "She can't touch it, not even with a court order." I exhaled, gripping the folder tightly. "And Evelyn, she'll believe it when she sees it. So make her see it." That night, I began preparing the silk wrap box. Inside, I placed a neatly printed timeline of Barbara's betrayal, dates, amounts, locations, a flash drive containing photos, audio clips, and financial records. A letter handwritten from me to Evelyn. 1 part apology, 1 part revelation, 1 part goodbye. This wasn't just to expose Barbara. This was to break the illusion. The one her mother so proudly clung to, the one where her daughter was the perfect president, the honest leader, the golden girl. I wasn't trying to turn her against her. I was just letting her see her the way I had for months. Clearly, the box was wrapped in cream silk, tied with a soft gold ribbon. It looked like a gift. It was just not the kind anyone would expect at a party. Then came the final piece, the clues. Barbara was arrogant, but she was also observant. She liked being 1 step ahead. I knew she'd check her golf cart late the night before the gala, so I planted subtle hints. Enough to rattle her, not enough to stop her. I placed a single white garden gnome on her porch, just one. She would remember that I had suggested them last year, and she'd banned them as tacky. Next to it, a copy of our first community photo in a cracked frame I had accidentally knocked over. She'd wonder if I was careless or sending a message. But the most important clue? I changed the password to our shared HOA cloud drive, the one where she secretly stored backup documents. I replaced it with the date she first ignored her own fence violation, the same date printed on the receipt I had found months ago. She'd try to log in. She'd fail, and maybe, just maybe, she'd feel the first drop of panic. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Her breathing was steady, calm from across the street. Mine was not. My heart thumped like a drum in my chest. But not from fear, from power. Because for once, I wasn't waiting to be fined. I wasn't bracing for another rule. I was leading the dance. When the gala started the next evening, I'd smile for the cameras. I'd toast with the guests. I'd play the role she wrote for me. Gracious, elegant, composed. But I wouldn't read the line she expected. I would wait for the moment she handed me those notices. I would let her gloat. It was the kind of night people post about, the kind that makes it on a holiday cards and HOA highlight reels. The lights were soft, glowing golden against the cream-colored drapes in the community pavilion. Classical music floated through the air like expensive perfume. Waiters in white gloves passed champagne flutes and trays of shrimp cocktail. Laughter echoed from every corner of the perfectly manicured green. Barbara had spared no expense. And of course, every camera lens in the room found us. Barbara and Emily Harper, the power duo still in harmony after 5 years. I wore the silver sundress she once said made me look like a walking moonbeam. I smiled on cue, laughed at jokes, clinked glasses, and thanked everyone for coming. Barbara stayed close to me most of the night, arm around my shoulders, making sure the illusion remained unbroken. "We're stronger than ever," she told one of the older residents with a dazzling grin. "Of course we are," I said softly. "We always survive the storms." Her eyes twitched just slightly, as if searching for the meaning behind my words. I gave her none. Then there was Ryan. He hovered near the back of the room, wearing black polo and pretending not to watch us. But I saw him. He smiled too much. He stood too close to Barbara's best board friend. And he was far too careful not to make eye contact with me. Smart guy, but not smart enough. Evelyn arrived late in a deep green dress and pearls. She kissed me on both cheeks and whispered, "You look radiant tonight, darling." "Thank you," I said, holding back the lump rising in my throat. She was about to learn something she could never unlearn. An hour in, Barbara raised her glass and clinked a fork against it. The room quieted. "Everyone," she said, "thank you for being here to celebrate 10 wonderful years with our beautiful community. Leadership isn't always easy, but Emily and I, well, we made it work." Polite laughter followed. I stood beside her, still smiling. "And in honor of our journey," she said, reaching into her clutch, "I have a little something." My stomach flipped, but my face didn't move. She pulled out an envelope, crisp, white, heavy. She handed it to me like it was a birthday card. Final violation notices, 6 pages of fines totaling more than my yearly salary, plus a recommendation to force sale. She wanted me to break. She wanted gasps, screams, maybe even tears. She wanted me to look crazy. But I didn't give her the pleasure. I opened the envelope slowly, read the first page, then, without a word, I folded it shut. I turned to the crowd with a calm smile. Then I walked straight to Evelyn. She looked confused at first. "Emily, I have something for you," I said gently, pulling the silk-wrapped box from beneath the table and placing it in her hands. "Please open it right here." She hesitated, then slowly untied the ribbon and lifted the lid. Inside lay the truth. A USB drive, printed photos, screenshots, transaction receipts, a copy of the signed power of attorney form Barbara tricked her into signing. All of it. She picked up a photo first, Barbara and Ryan in the illegal hot tub. Her eyes scanned the rest, then froze on the letter I'd written. She read the first line, and her hand began to tremble. The room had fallen silent. She didn't speak. She didn't shout. She simply stood, looked at her daughter, and stared. A long, hollow stare that pierced straight through her. Then she walked out. No words, no goodbye, just quiet steps across the stone patio and the sound of a gate closing behind her. Barbara blinked. "Mom." She took a step as if to follow, but stopped. Maybe fear held her back. Or maybe it was the weight of the silence now pressing down on her from every corner of the pavilion. People whispered. Some stared at the envelope in my hand. Others looked at her like she had grown 2 heads. Barbara turned to me, face pale, mouth open, but no words came. I met her gaze with the same expression I'd practiced in the mirror for weeks. "Grace." And without raising my voice, I said, "I hope this was the show you wanted." The silence didn't last long. As soon as the gate closed behind Evelyn, the room began to change. At first, it was just a shift in the air, something unseen but deeply felt. Guests who had been laughing moments ago now stood frozen, clutching their glasses as if unsure whether to stay or flee. You could almost hear the sound of reputations breaking. Then came the whispers. She just walked out. Was that a flash drive? Did she just serve her back? She knew. I didn't flinch. I stood tall, holding the empty silk box in my hands like a trophy. Barbara, however, was unraveling by the second. Her face flushed deep red as she looked between me and the stunned faces in the crowd. She tried to smile, but it twitched at the corners, more of a grimace than anything else. "Emily," she said through clenched teeth, "what the hell did you just do?" I leaned in close enough that only she could hear me. "I gave you, Mother, the truth. The same one you were so eager to hide." Her eyes flicked around the room, then down to her phone, which buzzed in her clutch. She pulled it out. One look and her jaw tightened. Then it buzzed again and again. From across the pavilion, I saw one of her board members, Jeffrey Wallace, check his phone and scowl. He turned on his heel and walked out without a word. Two others followed, whispering with tight mouths and furrowed brows. Barbara looked down at her phone once more, and I saw it. Panic. Messages flooded in. Her board members, our joint vendors, a few journalists I had quietly tipped off with a scheduled email blast. I had uploaded the same USB content onto a secure cloud drive, encrypted, time-stamped, and shared with every person Barbara had built her image around. The truth was no longer just in Evelyn's hands. It was everywhere. She reached for my arm, her voice low and biting. "You think this makes you powerful?" I pulled my arm free. "No, it makes me honest. Something you haven't been in years." She stared at me, stunned, like she was seeing me for the first time. The mask she always wore, the cool, charming, untouchable Barbara, was cracking in front of everyone. Then, like clockwork, someone else walked out. A longtime resident from our first year. Then another. The photographer packed up her camera. A few of the younger homeowners who once worshipped her turned away like she was poison. And Ryan gone. He had slipped out the moment Evelyn stood, like a shadow vanishing into the hedges. No goodbye, no defense, just gone. I almost admired it. Almost. Barbara's voice rose. "This is slander. You planned this. You've ruined everything." Still calm, I stepped back. "No, Barbara, you ruined everything. I just showed them the mess you made." She looked down at her phone again. Her expression fell even further. She knew the leaks had landed. "Marcus texted me. Everything's live. Financial lock's in place. You're clear." I turned without another word and walked away. The stone path echoed beneath my heels as I crossed the green. No one stopped me. They parted like waves. Some looked at me with wide eyes, some with respect. A few just nodded silently like they'd seen something rare. Outside, the night was cool and quiet. A black car waited at the curb. Marcus stood beside it, leaning casually against the door in his gray suit. "You're right on time," he said, opening the door for me. I slid into the back seat, the silk box still in my lap. Inside the pavilion, I could see Barbara through the tall glass doors. She stood alone now, her pearls loosened, her phone pressed to her ear. No one answered. Not her mother, not her contractor, not even her precious rules. The woman who once controlled every lawn now stood in one she couldn't hold together. And me? I exhaled for the first time in months. This wasn't just revenge. This was release. This was reclaiming the pieces of myself she tried to erase. As the car pulled away, I didn't look back. There was nothing worth saving behind me anymore. A week after the gala, Evelyn asked to see me. No lawyers, no press, no pretense, just two women. We met at a quiet cafe near the edge of town, the kind with little lace curtains and a waitress who smiled like she'd seen everything. Evelyn sat near the window, back straight, hands folded over a single cup of untouched tea. She looked older than I remembered, less polished, more human. "Thank you for coming," she said. I nodded and took the seat across from her. For a long moment, we didn't speak. The air between us held everything: betrayal, confusion, grief, and something else. "Respect. I thought I knew my daughter," she finally said, voice soft. But the woman I raised wouldn't do the things you showed me. My throat tightened. I looked at her carefully. I never wanted to hurt you. You didn't, she said quickly. You saved me from continuing a lie, one I was proud of for far too long. She reached into her handbag and pulled out a small black envelope. Inside was a single silver key, cool and elegant. I opened an account years ago, she said, pushing it toward me. Back when Barbara first became president, I told myself it was for her future projects, just in case. But now I see it was never about the projects. It was about having hope. Hope that something pure might come from all of this. I stared at the key, stunned. Evelyn, I can't. You can, she interrupted. And you will. That money is yours now. You may never need it. But I want you to know you were never the weak one in this story. You stayed, you fought, and you walked away without letting her break you. I held the key in my hand, the weight of it pressing against my palm like a new beginning. She reached across the table and placed her hand gently over mine. You supported her well, Emily. But now it's time you support yourself even more. Tears threatened to rise, but I blinked them back. Not here. Not now. We talked a little longer about things that had nothing to do with Barbara. Books, art, her garden. She smiled more freely than I had ever seen, as if letting go of her daughter's perfect image had freed something inside her, too. When we said goodbye, she hugged me. Not out of guilt, not out of pity, but as a woman who finally understood another. And then I was alone again, but not in the same way. For the first time, I felt light. I kept my sunlit house overlooking the common green. I got my own garden, vegetables blooming freely now that the rules were rewritten. I painted the fence a soft almond cream and started my days with silence and fresh coffee. The quiet didn't scare me anymore. It felt like mine. I reopened my design business under a new name. Clients came slowly but steadily. The kind who valued substance over flash. I worked when I wanted, rested when I needed, and smiled at the little things, like the breeze through my curtains or the way my cat curled up beside me while I edited late at night. As for Barbara, she tried. She held emergency board meetings, denied everything, called the leaks fabricated, claimed I was a bitter ex-resident out for revenge. But the evidence spoke louder than she ever could. Her board replaced her. Sponsors pulled out. Residents walked. Her face disappeared from the HOA website within 2 weeks. And when she tried to rebuild with Ryan, he ghosted her too. Moved cities, changed numbers, vanished like cheap mulch. She called me once, just once. No words, just silence on the other end. I didn't say anything either. Sometimes silence is the loudest answer. Now I walk differently. I sleep deeper. I speak slower. Not out of caution, but confidence. I'm no longer afraid of being alone because I'm not broken. I was never broken. Just quiet. But not anymore. Because queens don't beg to stay in a neighborhood built to break them. They flip the board and plant their own garden. If you love powerful stories like this, don't just watch. Be part of the journey. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Your support helps us grow and bring you even more jaw-dropping HOA Karen stories every day.